Hey, welcome back. If you're new here, come get you a spot up here next to clear that stuff out of your way there and just welcome aboard. Hey, today we're talking about the destruction of the bells. Now, historically, bells were everywhere. I'm talking about, ding, 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 the ringing bells. Now, why were they important historically? Often they hung from a tower. They might announce the time of day. And so people out in the countryside could hear this. You might be working in the field and realize, hey, it's noontime. It's time to head to the house. You didn't have a cell phone. It wasn't like, they could just call you and save a trip out to the field or try to find you on the farm or whatever. You'd hear the bells, hey, it's time to eat. It might be a celebration of a marriage. A slow, mournful ringing might be, announcing a death. Back to celebration. Independence Day in America was a big one, and you heard bells everywhere by all historical accounts. It was a celebration, the ringing of the bells. It might announce the start of school and the dismissal of school for that, let the parents know, hey, they're coming back. It's time to get ready here. Might be the dismissal of church, and hey, that might be a cause for celebration depending on where you went. We're going to get back to churches, just hang tight for a minute. A rapidly repeated and extended bell ringing might be a sign of danger, and back in the day, that was often fire. And if you had a fire back then, you had a problem on your hands. All hands on deck. We need all the help we can get to stop this fire, to save the town, basically. So bells were everywhere, and to repeat myself, I guess, prevalent. And what happened to them? Now, during World War II alone, the Nazi regime went around and confiscated bells. 175,000 approximately. 175,000 bells were confiscated, primarily from churches, but basically anywhere they could get their hands on one. And of those, that approximated 175,000, 150,000 of those were destroyed. Now, the face value of that is we needed the metal. We're building armaments, the brass, the tin, using for shell casings, using for, whatever projectile explosives. That we need the metal, and we're going to get it from you. Now, basically, everywhere the Nazi regime went and conquered the land, they confiscated the bells from them. Austria, Belgium, Czechoslovakia, France, Hungary, Italy, the Netherlands, Poland, the USSR, Yugoslavia, all these countries had bells confiscated by the Nazi regime. Now, a lot of these people, kind of seeing what was going on, they tried to preserve the bells by burying them underground on farms. And some of them are being dug up in present times. They might be digging for something else, and it's like, what is this giant? These things, some of them are massive. Well, like I said, we're going to get back to the churches. What if there was another purpose in getting rid of these bells? A properly tuned bell at 432 hertz can promote healing. And what better way to do that than posting it high up in a bell tower and ringing it and cascading that sound out amongst the populace? A spirit of well-being, a spirit of promoting healing. Now, interestingly, the Vatican, who is not in any way sketchy in any manner of their dealings whatsoever, honest, they worked out a pre-war agreement with Mussolini's government and agreed to preserve at least half the bells. The trouble with that is, number one, this is a pre-war agreement. How did they know that a war was coming? Number two, how did they know that the Nazis would end up needing the metal specifically from bells? And number three, if you agree to preserve at least half the bells, that automatically presumes that the other half are going to be destroyed. Now, personally, I want to direct you to a channel right here on YouTube. It's called My Lunch Break, and I think the guy initially started doing these episodes on his lunch break. His audio was really rough, and it quickly got much, much better. His sarcasm is hilarious. And yeah, I don't agree with everything he says, and I could poke holes in some of his theories, but man, he makes some interesting and awesome points. And his photography, his pictures that he finds, and he's sending these places emails and stuff asking for answers, and he never gets any, which adds to his theories. Anyway, I would recommend that. Go check that out. It's interesting stuff. But not just him, but the more I look into this and the more I read about this stuff, the old churches found worldwide, I do not believe personally, were initially built to be churches. I believe they were centers for healing through harmonic resonance. You'll notice throughout the world, regardless of location, that many of these have huge domes, and that in conjunction with their stained glass, it's a promotion of healing. And if you're going to pray while you're in there, even better. You know, we're promoting healing here. We want to be better. We want to feel better. Maybe we just want to be a better person in our activities, in our day-to-day life. When you stop and consider the times, the historical points that these supposed churches were constructed by people riding around on donkeys, massive, wonderful, artistic monuments that all resonate sound. If you've ever been in one, any bigger town or city will have one of these, to a varying degree, will have one of these structures in there. They don't look like anything else built in the last 100 years, probably in the world. They bear no resemblance to that. They're old buildings. And a lot of them have domes. And you'll notice that when you go in there, even a cough, someone coughs, it echoes. The sound is immensely, it's just magnified and carried and radiated. So what would a bell do? And they often had bell towers originally, but the bells are gone now. A local church in my town has a bell tower, but there's no bells in it. There are 4 speakers that look like a megaphone, and they play a tape recording of bells. They went through all the expense to build the tower and enclose it. You can't see them unless you get directly under there and look up into it. And there's no bell. It's a recording of some bells somewhere tuned to God knows what. Where are the bells at? Well, they've been destroyed. But you have to ask yourself, why? Getting back to the pre-war agreement that the Vatican made with Mussolini, you're telling me that just certain entities can get together with leaders of countries and, okay, we're planning a war. Well, we want to protect some of our stuff here, and just keep all that information away from the populace, and it's okay. It doesn't make any sense, but on the other hand, it makes perfect sense. If you don't want your population healthy necessarily, or to have this feeling of ease and peace and restoration, let alone a place to go to. And again, I think in my personal, from what I've studied on this, these buildings were not initially churches. They weren't to be run by organizations, and they were not built in the timelines given to us by people riding donkeys to build these immaculate buildings and then go home and live in a shed, a shack that they dug out of the woods and hewed down some trees. Yeah, we're going to live here, but we're going to go build this awesome structure. And they're always perfect. There's never like a corner that Billy Bob goofed up, A lot of them, they claim they were built by slave labor. They just had these skills in 1509 or 1634. The slaves had skills to build this stuff. The common layman, the farmer, a lot of the so-called architects of these structures were sons of farmers. And they just have these skills, I guess, because Dad taught me. He was out there farming the ground, but somehow he knew mathematics and physics, load-bearing, load-carrying, archways, always perfect. Are you kidding me? And we see the same thing in state capitals. Always the dome. Often built by slave labor. Many of them had competitions in the drawings. And the winner of the competition, that's the one we're going to build. There's that many architects floating around back then in 1804 or 1793. There's that many architects. We're going to have a competition. Jim Bob, the farmer, well, his son, he draws some stuff. Always built perfectly. There's nothing at all sketchy about that. But sure enough, every one of these, I would venture to guess that every one of those at some point had a bell, and then it's been removed. And you have to ask yourself why at some point. It's interesting stuff to think about. If you like the video, you can share it. You can place your comments. I always read them. I like those. You do whatever you want to. It's a free country, I think. Hey, thank you for watching. I appreciate your time. I'll see you next time.